What's going on, everybody? My name is Kelly Parker, and welcome to the When the Gals Gather YouTube channel. This is the place where we have fun, we learn from each other, and we share tricks of the trade and how to live an authentic biblical lifestyle. So one of the things that I love to do on this channel is to introduce you to people that are inspiring, that are motivational, and people that will encourage you to move forward in your walk with God. And today we are tackling the subject of building up the next generation. And I'm really excited about this because I have a young lady sitting next to me who she might be a lot younger than me, but she is constantly in the way she carries herself and just her heart for the Lord. She encourages me. Just a few minutes ago, we were talking and she said that the goal for her life is to please God. And there are people triple, quadruple her age that are still trying to aspire to that mindset. So I'm so excited to introduce you guys to Miss Carmen Priestley.
Hello.
How are you this fine day?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So Carmen and I did some talking and we decided that we were actually going to interview one another because we're part of different generations, different age groups, but we can actually learn from one another. And so that's our encouragement to you, is to find people both younger than you or even older than you, to be open to getting God's wisdom anywhere where it's available. So I'm going to start, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just want you to tell the people your age and your grade. So starting off easy.
Hi, my name is Carmen Priestley. I am 16 years old and I'm in the 11th grade.
Okay. I'm taking another turn.
Okay.
Okay. So tell me how you came to know Jesus, your journey to becoming a Christian.
I actually accepted Christ at a young age. I think I was about 5 or 6 years old. I was in the car and I guess I was just curious about how how you accept Christ, because I heard all about the sinner's prayer. And so I guess I came in the car one day and I asked my mom about it. And she said, you can just pray it right now. And so she just let me in that. And I said that, and I remember that moment. And I remember, from that moment on, just really feeling like God was with me. But still, I felt like, I wasn't really committed to him. I knew who he was, and I did feel him with me. There's moments in my life where I look back and I was like, wow, that was a moment where God really was there with me and he really showed himself to me. And so yeah, but I still wasn't really as committed as I would have liked to have been with him. And so actually, when I came to Christ Community, backtrack a little bit. I was in about, I would say seventh, eighth grade. And this was when we were coming from Abundant Grace. And me and my family, my mom, my brother, we were just going through different churches. We were going to Destiny, and then we actually attend Christ Community. And I just remember Pastor Levert, actually me and Tamia started going to, my best friend Tamia, we started going to Christ Community together. And both of us were kind of in the same place in our lives where we knew who God was, but we weren't really that committed. And so once we went to Christ Community and Pastor Levert was just talking about things like, you can't have one foot in the door and one foot out the door. And just stuff like, you have to, like, being with God and your relationship with God shouldn't just be just a Sunday thing. It should be an everyday thing, a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday thing, sorry. And I started to realize, I just remember those walls just beginning to break down. And I really started to see that, that God is more than just my Sundays. He's something that I need to commit to every single day of my life. And I also was in a place where I don't know, I was just in a bad place in my life, just doing things that I shouldn't do, just giving into peer pressure and all those kinds of things. And when I began to really commit myself to God, and I remember just the moments where I was like, I'm just going to read my Bible. And I would stay, because at the time, I was sharing the room with my brother. And so I didn't really have the space to do it in my own room. So I would just go in the bathroom, and I would stay in the bathroom and read my Bible for hours. And it was just, I would just soak in all of God. And I vividly remember those moments and just seeing God really work in my life and just really show me his love. And yeah, so that's really how it all happened, because yeah. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Carmen, you're trying to take me out, but I'm not going to let you. Ask. Okay, your turn.
Okay.
Ask me something.
So, my first question, oh yeah, so I hope this is not too personal of a question, but I know that you and Pastor Levert, remained abstinent while dating. And so I know that, people like me and other girls like Tamia, Tia, Asia, we have that same kind of goal. And we, want to remain abstinent and, while dating too. So I was just wondering, what parameters or boundaries did you set and that you would recommend, others setting in order to, maintain abstinence while dating?
Good question. So, yes, that's true. So, Levert and I dated for, we dated for a year and 9 months, and we spent 9 months being engaged, but we didn't do anything. We didn't even kiss. In all that time. The first time we kissed was when we got married at the altar. But let me say this first. I think that the main driver you already have in place is that you have a heart to want to please the Lord, and that you're committed to follow him no matter what, no matter the cost, even if it's uncomfortable. And out of that is going to flow everything else from your life. So really, I feel like the specific standards, every person has to get before the Lord and figure out for themselves what are those guidelines going to be. But point being, there do need to be some guidelines. There does need to be some accountability in there. So I'm not the kind of person that's going to tell you it's a sin to kiss somebody that you're not married to. I can tell you it might be unwise a lot of the time, but really keeping that connection with the Lord and not being stupid. That's really what it comes down to. A lot of times we're so confident. Once we get in that situation and we become emotionally attached to somebody, we figure, oh, I can go over to his place at 2 a.m. We're just going to read the Bible.
Right.
We're just going to pray. That's stupid. You know, the Lord gives us intellect for a reason. And so sometimes when we get emotionally invested, all that goes out the window. And so you need to have a circle, and you already have a circle of people that you give the permission to ask the difficult questions, to hold you accountable. So if you're staying connected to the Lord and you have some boundaries in place that have been agreed upon, and you have people that are checking in on you, you are setting yourself up for success. I think the other point is to remember it's going to be a fight. It's going to be the fight of your life. Because the enemy is going to come for it. The enemy is going to come for your sexuality, for your purity, and it's unrelenting. And so as long as we utilize the tools that we have to fight him, we have prayer, we have the word, and we have one another, it's God's will for you. And you go after it. And it doesn't matter what's on TV. It doesn't matter what celebrity of the week is doing. He will uphold you, and he will meet you where you want to be with him. And through him, you can do it, even if it feels impossible, but the will of God is within your reach. So it's not something pie in the sky. It might be uncommon, but it's well within your reach. It's not impossible. Everything is possible with the Lord. Girl, you got me going on and on. Okay, your turn. So tell us this. How do you handle temptation?
Temptation. Okay. This is something that, I think that I'm constantly learning and wrestling with God. But I would say that there's a few things. I think the primary source is prayer. I have to, in those moments, it can come at any moment and in any form, but in those moments where you are tempted, when I am tempted, I have to really just pray to God and call upon the name of Jesus, and his name in and of itself is so powerful, and it's the greatest thing in this universe, the most powerful force. And so just calling on his name, even if I can't find the words to say, is just so such a powerful thing, and I find that even in those moments where I just call upon his name, he's faithful to just take those desires away, and just relieve me of that temptation. And also there's one method that God helped me to come up with, and it's called the CFS method. And it's basically seize, flee, seek. So, when I'm tempted, just...
Wait a minute. You said that the Lord helped you come up with this?
Yeah.
Girl, hush. We're going to copyright that.
But,
I'm sorry.
That's okay. But basically, sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. But seize, just stopping what I'm doing, fleeing from that thing, and then seeking God, and pressing into Him in those moments of temptation.
You are a gem, girl. You are
Thank
a treasure.
you so much.
I hope you know that. Is it my
That
turn?
means a lot.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
It's your turn.
okay. So for this one, I was thinking about the verse Romans 12:2 that says, do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And so, as believers, there's this constant pressure to conform to the patterns of this world, and to just be like the world, whether it's like with the temptation of drugs and our friends, just doing things that we're kind of like, like that actually seems fun, just those kind of things. So I was just wondering, how, would you recommend resisting the pressure to conform, and how do you like personally do that as well?
I think it has a lot to do with what you allow to influence you, right? So, people say watch your ear gates and your eye gates, right? So whatever you have in front of you a lot of times is what you want to be like. And so I think that's an important thing. Like, what do you allow around you? Like, it should be consistent with where you're trying to go, spiritually, and then honestly just other areas in life, like just the way you have your life set up and the people that you allow to influence you. Are they consistent with the faith that you want to have? I will say, I think in the time we live in now, it's more difficult because we have a window into other people's lives through social media, right? So you're seeing things that perhaps you wouldn't have seen in the past. So I think it's just putting those guardrails in place. And then I think it also goes back to having people that you can be honest with, and that will tell you the hard things. Like, that will tell you, like, what you just said wasn't right. You know what I mean? In a loving way.
Right,
having those people that you have that type of environment with that will help steer you back, because any one of us can drift at any moment. Like, we have members of a studio audience here off camera, and they have reeled me back in on many occasions. You know what I mean? And so I think that's so important too, just doing life with one another.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. Let me pick a good one. What is the biggest challenge that you've had so far in your life, and how did you overcome it?
Challenge. This is. The biggest challenge. So, like in a spiritual sense, or just overall? Oh, okay. The biggest challenge. This is the hard question.
Is it? Do you want me to pick another one?
Yeah.
Okay. Never mind. Don't worry about that. Okay. What do you do to stay focused spiritually? Like, it sounds like you really, like, you've put your stake in the ground. Like, listen here, I'm getting ready to walk with the Lord, So how do you practically keep along with that,
That's a very good question. This is something as well that, of course, I'm still learning and growing in this area. But practically, I would say, Sister Melissa, a member of our church, she actually came and spoke at our girls group, And one of the things that she said that really hit me hard was the fact that she was just continuously emphasizing the fact that there's nothing you can do without God. You know, whatever effort that you make, whatever thing that you do that's without God, it's kind of temporary. You know, it's not gonna last. You know, and so I think for me, I constantly have to remind myself of that. And I constantly have to know that I need God, you know, and it's not, like I said, you know, before, it's not just a Sunday thing. It's an everyday thing. It's an every moment thing that you constantly have to live out. And I think that I try to do that. You know, of course, I mean, of course I struggle in that, you know, and constantly, you know, being devoted to God. But I try to, you know, read my devotions when I wake up and pray to God in the morning, pray about, while I'm on the bus, try to pray about, you know, my family, my friends, our church, you know, those kinds of things. And just in those moments throughout the day, you know, when things are occurring, just pray to God. You know, there's times where something will happen and like sometimes I'll see things like, you know, kids talking about God, and it's so interesting to me because it's like they're asking these questions, and it just shows that, like, how do I explain this? It just shows that we're all in search of something greater, if that makes sense. And they're asking these questions. I'm like, wow, that's really interesting, and I feel God, you know, impressing on my heart, you know, to pray for them. And then in my mind, I'm kind of like, oh yeah, I gotta pray for them later. And then God's like, okay, no, you need to pray for them now. So it's just in those moments, you know, moment by moment, just praying to God and staying in connection with Him, you know, throughout the day. I think sometimes we feel like, okay, you know, in the morning I gotta see God, and then at this certain time, you know, but God is with us, you know, in every moment. And I think that we can call it. He yearns and desires for us to just stay in that constant connection with Him. And so I guess that's how I try to live it out on a daily basis. And yeah.
Lovely. Okay, can I ask another one and then
Yeah.
you can ask two?
Yeah.
Okay. So, what advice or tips do you have for parents? Because my oldest daughter is 10 and my other daughter is 6, and I'm just like, Lord, please let them turn out like Carmen, Lord. Just please, Lord, please let them turn, you know, let them have a heart for the Lord. And so what advice would you have, or what's your take on what a parent could do to help facilitate a child's heart from your point of view?
Well, first I just want to say I feel like you're already doing such a great job.
Oh, I try.
but I think the one of the most important things is patience, because my mom can tell you there's been some really rough times, you know, moments where I was just back talking and just really rude towards her and disrespectful. But she always prayed for me, and she always just encouraged me, and she always reminded me of God. And that's the thing, like there would be moments where I was like so angry, and I didn't want, the last thing on my mind or the last thing I wanted to be reminded of was God, because, you know, deep down inside I knew what I was doing was wrong, but she would always remind me and bring me back to that, back to, you know, what God says and what's, you know, those things. And so in those moments, you know, I just felt like, I don't know, I just felt like the way that she was patient with me, and the way that she just stood with me, even in those moments where I was really disrespectful, and when I was really just cruel and rude to her, and she had no reason, like, you know, she really could have just like walked away from me. She chose to love me, and she chose to talk with me and communicate with me and just understand what I was going through. And so I think that's really, I feel like, I don't know, like looking back, I feel like my mom, just having my mom there and having my mom constantly like praying over me and praying over my life, I feel like God really answered those prayers, because, you know, now I feel like, you know, now me and my mom are really praying the same thing for my brother, because, you know, I can really relate to where he's at, because I was in a similar place where I was just, just not committed to God, knowing who he was, but not committed to him. And my mom, she just, was always just praying for me. And so I think that those are two, like those things are really important, just being patient and understanding with your child, no matter what they're doing. And of course, not saying like, oh, that's fine, but,
Right.
but in those moments, just standing by them and just loving them, and praying for them, praying that, just praying that, God will watch over them, and that, that, yeah, that they will be who God has called them to be. And I like I said, I really do feel like in my heart, like you're just doing such a great job with that already, because, like the Bible says, that we're supposed to train up a child in the way that they should go, so when they're old, they won't depart from that. And I feel like, you're already you're doing such a great job with that already. So, and they're such, sorry, oh no, but they're such sweet children, and yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Carmen. All right, I'm not gonna hog all the questions.
Oh no, you're good. Okay, let's see here. One of the questions was very similar to what you asked, but I'll ask the third question. So, so as a woman, I know that society can, put such we can feel such pressure from society to be, to look like this or to be like that, to yeah. And so
Conform to like a standard.
right. So I was just wondering, especially like with social media, it's so easy. Sorry, I just changed the subject, but especially with social media, it can be so easy. We have such easy access to a plethora of people's pages, and you can just see so many beautiful women, and like, oh, why am I not like that? Those thoughts can occur very, very easily. So I was just wondering, how do you deal, and how would you recommend dealing with society's beauty standards?
Well, I'll say first, I still struggle with that, to be perfectly honest. But I think that it's important to remember God is the one that made you, inside and out, just how you are, exactly how you are. And when he was finished, he said, I like this. He's completely satisfied with you. And so being a Christian is the journey of agreeing with God about everything, of him transforming our thought process to on everything that we agree with what he said. And so it's a matter of trying to come back to that place to remember, about me, this is what God thinks, and I have to choose whether I'm going to agree with it or not, And I think it goes back to, again, to limiting the intake of things that challenge what his thought process is. So I know sometimes I get to a certain point, it's time to get off Instagram. It's time to shut it down and do something more life-giving, because this has me feeling some kind of way. You know what I mean? And also just remembering, not just even with standards of beauty, but just people's lives in general as they appear to be on social media. It's an appearance, you know what I mean? It's limited, you know what I mean? It's not a person's whole life, It's even in how somebody looks, you know what I mean? Sometimes things are augmented, you know what I mean? Sometimes we compare ourselves to something that's not even real, and God is wanting us to treasure ourselves for who we are. So that's what I try to keep in mind, but I'll be honest, it is a journey. And some days I'm feeling it, other days I'm like, but it's like, what, you work with what you got. And I would say be able to affirm yourself, be able to know these are the things that I like about myself. These are the things that I like about how I look, and I'm going to focus on that. And you know what I mean? But to be honest, I still have other things. I'm like, okay, I wish things were a little different. The Lord help me. And I think I'm still in that process of him showing me to appreciate and be okay with it. You know what I mean? And see the beauty. Choose to see the beauty.
Right.
Okay, do another one. I got two. You get two.
Okay. All right. So Okay, so I know that there. I mean, just in general, like we're just talking about, with social media. Um, sorry. There is a lot of influence, around that, and similarly, there can be a lot of voices and people saying certain things about you should do this, like I know Asia, she is my best friend Asia. She is getting ready to go to college, and T as well, but I know that we've talked, and she said that, a lot of people have been saying, like, oh, you should go to this college or you should do this, but she's felt in her heart that she wants to go to this certain place. And so I guess, for me, I sometimes experience that as well, just feeling that pull towards certain, hearing the voices of other people, telling me I should do this and this and that, but then in my heart feeling like God is calling me to do something else. So I guess my question is, how do you, stay true to the calling that God has, on your life, I guess?
That reminds me of the life of Moses. He's trying to lead the people out, and they got antsy, and they had feedback, and everybody had something to say. And he was able to navigate through all that to hear the voice of the Lord. And it's through, I think, a lifestyle of practicing that. Like the moment where you need to make a big decision or you need to hear God, I'm not going to say it's too late, but that's not the time to start trying to hear God. Right. That's not the time. It's the time to cultivate that practice and to cultivate that ear to discern his voice. It needs to be rehearsed so that when that moment of truth comes, you can discern his voice. And I think that's the bottom line. I think there will still be that tension there, but I also think the Lord gives us the comfort of our conviction. You know what I mean? When we know that we're following him, we know that we've heard from him, to be able to kind of drown the rest of the stuff out and have comfort that if it's really God leading me, he's going to give me everything I need to carry out what he's calling me to do. And God is good, and I think that he will a lot of times give us little confirmations on the journey, or little encouragements on the journey, to help us understand that we are navigating in the right manner. But I would say that's a big tension of the Christian life, but keep walking towards that voice. And the more that we walk towards it, it will get louder, and the rest of the noise will begin to just fade to the background, All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I have to tell you a couple of things. I just love you, which I'm sure you already know. But you are a light, and you are shining so bright. And you are just starting. You are just scratching the surface. I believe that God is calling you out in your generation.
Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot.
Let me finish my sentence. I believe that he's calling you out in your generation to represent him. And to go into dark places and shine light. And you are already doing it. And I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. When I was 16, I was not where you are. I was trying to be cute. Now, I was a church girl and all of that, but I was not, I didn't have, it was years before I developed that. And so I'm just so, you are so inspirational to me. You give me so much life. And I thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
All right. I forgot the rest of you guys were watching. So here's my word for you. Pursue wisdom, whether it's from a little older lady or it's from somebody younger than you. Wherever you can find it, pursue the Lord and be open to hearing what he has to say to you. And I encourage you to share your story. Share your story with those that are coming behind you so that we can be diligent to be Titus 2 women and to upbuild everybody around us. Thanks for watching. See you next time.